Good morning, campers, and welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood. I'm B.
And I'm Zack. So B, what's the name of this chapter?
The name of this chapter is We Visit to the Garden Gnome Emporium, which is just a really great name for just any kind of location.
It just reminds me of like a weird curio shop, almost like Needful Things.
Yeah, there's something about it that reminds me of like something that would be in Gravity Falls or something.
Well, I mean, there are gnomes in Gravity Falls.
Yes,
so.
And also like something about like the mystery shack. Like there's just like weird stuff around.
I mean, I've been to the mystery spot in Northern California, so it's like whimsical type of stuff. There's something I like that it's like the Garden Gnome Emporium, because it's just, you automatically know what you're going to see. You're going to see a bunch of like ugly garden gnomes.
Do you want to know a fun fact about my family? My great uncle, so my grandma's brother, he is like a relatively, or was rather, because he has since moved beyond our mortal plane, but his
like planet needed him?
Yeah, his planet needed him. Oh, I really wonder what planet he would come from, because he was a very fascinating man. But he made like whimsical statues, like that was his thing. So he made like chandeliers, his like whimsical like woodland creature like candle holders and stuff. So that's mainly how he made a living, and my mom worked for him for a time. The irony, of course, being that he was kind of a jerk. Like, you would think that this guy who makes like really cute sort of lamps with like frogs on it, he would be like a cool guy, but he was like kind of not the nicest. Anyway, this reminded me of that a lot. Like, that's kind of what his workshop looked like, is just like a bunch of really weird, kind of vaguely tacky statues.
I think that's like the word that you could use for this chapter to describe it, is it's vaguely tacky.
Yeah, I have like a weird mixed feeling about like lawn ornaments, because sometimes they're cute and other times they're not. I think it has a lot to do with how much foliage you have in your lawn. If you just have like a blank lawn and then you just like put gnomes on it with no sort of set dressing.
What did you think of this chapter?
We were sort of talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but I really liked this chapter. I think it's kind of delivering on some of the things you have vaguely promised. Up until this point, like, the genre of the book felt really different, because you were like at a summer camp, and that's like comes with a whole host of like different tropes and things you expect. Well, like now it's like a more road trippy, and then you have that aspect of like magic realism that they're incorporating, and like weird Americana, which is really not something we saw before.
Like, the best way we put it, or I guess we both collaborated and we kind of came to the same conclusion, is it's the kids version, like the Diet Coke version of American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read Neil Gaiman, but from what I gather, that's kind of the gist of what it's like. It's like, oh yeah, there are magic beings that exist in America, and they live among us in like ways that you wouldn't expect. And I'm like a total sucker for that kind of thing. I mean, even like something like the movie Big Fish or something I really love. I like that, the idea that there's a sort of more whimsical magic aspect to like the mundane.
If I remember correctly, there's actually like a name for it. It's like, I want to say it's actually like Mystical Americana is the name, where it's like this big vision of not America, but like the aesthetic of like Route 66, but like
it's not quite like Southern Gothic, because we're not talking about the South. This takes place this scene is like in New Jersey, so I
think the way you would describe it, it's like the mysticism of going on Route 66.
Yeah, definitely. I do think there's a history of like weird Gothic Americana that, I mean, like Southern Gothic's the most popular, but like even there's other weird, even just like local legend kind of things that you think of. Like, I even talked about last episode jokingly, sort of, that like the Jersey Devil lives in New Jersey. There's a lot of like strange lore that exists in America, which is even more bizarre because it's not even that old compared to a lot of other countries.
The interesting thing that I love about America is even though we consider it to be this grand old thing, it really isn't. It's only, the concept of the United States has only been a thing for about 300 years, which is nothing compared to like most countries and nations. They've been around for much longer.
Yeah, I think I saw a post online once that said, the scary thing about Europe is that everything is so old, and the scary thing about America is that everything is so big.
That is true, and also a lot of like coming back from from a history standpoint is that a lot of the time people that moved out from the big cities on the East Coast were just trying to get away from overpopulation and it just being really stupid. So it's like they brought their, ideas and beliefs and all these wonderful things and kind of like shaped America into like this interesting little melting pot.
It's kind of funny. I feel like there are certain like weird rundown things that are very like romanticized in like American culture.
I'll give a prime example of that. So do you know what the Casbion dinosaurs? Do you know like the dinosaurs they had in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I've actually been there, and it is like this is like this romanticized little place, and it is crazier than a bag of like knockoff Fruit Loops.
Bag knockoff Fruit Loops.
Yes, because like the people that own it are like very into creationism.
Oh right, yes, I've heard of this actually.
There's like literal murals of like Roman gladiators fighting dinosaurs.
Oh, America, you're so weird and complicated.
So it's like we romanticize these things, but if you like you really go and look at them, they could be simply horrifying, which I think is the great concept of this chapter is that we open up and Percy and the gang are now in New Jersey. Like in the woods of New Jersey.
I love that you just lean into that and pretend like that's what people from New Jersey sound like. Like, I don't know what that accent is. I'm trying my best to parse it out. Listen, as a New Yorker, it is my sworn duty to be a jerk about New Jersey.
And as a sworn California person, we have to make fun of everyone else that doesn't like avocado on their toast.
Listen, avocado toast is delicious. Also, Brooklyn is in New York, and there's a lot of avocado toast happening there. That's a hotbed of avocado toast.
Literally, they toast the toast there.
They toast the toast on a hot bed, and it comes out on a weird slate thing.
I mean, that goes back to, I guess, like the romanticism of like, if you're from New York, I would imagine like from your perspective, B, there's like certain things you kind of just have playful fun with.
Yeah, I mean, like, New Jersey is definitely, like, the place you make fun of when you're from New York. I don't know why, like, it's kind of like, you ever watch that episode of The Wild Thornberrys? Where it's, like, the two different sects of, monkeys, and one has short tails, and one has long tails, and then they, like, make armor out of coconut shells, and, like, it covers their tails, and then they realize that really they're the same all along. That's kind of New York and New Jersey, really. It's because, like, we're not all that different entirely. Like, there's, my hairdresser sounds like Linda Belcher, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a stereotype exclusive to New Jersey, for sure. Also, there's incredibly, like, really, like, rich places in New Jersey. Like, it's a diverse state. I have a friend who's from Hoboken, who, that's where the Cake Boss is from, if you're aware of Bunny Velastra. And that's all they do when they talk to her is just like, oh, you're from Hoboken. Do you like the Cake Boss? And, like, I feel like he's become her, like, sworn nemesis for no reason other than she's just so tired of hearing about it. Yeah, also she's like, that's not even the best bakery in Hoboken. There's so many more that you could go to that have a better time.
So they're walking through the woods, and this is where Percy and Annabeth start fighting for the umpteenth time.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's interesting because the only reason why Annabeth really came on this quest was not to protect Percy, but because she just wanted to be on this quest.
She wanted to go on a quest, yeah. She's like angry at him for like endangering her possibility of going on a quest, which is pretty selfish and kind of rude of her to be like, oh, I'm only concerned that you almost died because if you die, then that will really put a cramp in my style.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a different type of character, which I think that's interesting, is a lot of characters would be, she's like the opposite of a damsel in distress. Like, she wants to go on the adventure, and Percy's like, I'd like living.
Yeah, Percy's honestly a little bit more relatable, honestly. Like, he's going on a quest for, like, very specific personal reasons that he feels he needs to do, but it's not like it's just a general yearning for going on an adventure.
Well, I mean, Annabeth has the exact opposite. She wants to go on it because she really rarely gets a chance to go outside the camp.
Yeah, because she's been living there since, like, forever, and there's, like, a whole, like, host of issues with her living outside the camp because it, like, brings danger upon her, and, like, she can't really, like, live with her dad, so it's just kind of this awkward situation where locked away in a tower, so to speak.
But luckily, this wonderful waft of grease fills the air of New Jersey. I don't know if that's like a natural pungent aroma of New Jersey, but it could be.
There's a lot of wafting grease happening. I mean, I don't know. Do they specify where they are in New Jersey? They're not like on the shore, I guess.
No,
but
so they left. They literally are like on the outskirts of New Jersey because they left the Lincoln Tunnel. They parked and then they ran into the woods.
So they're like somewhere near. I have no idea. I don't know geography. Before I say anything and sound dumb, I'm just gonna like refrain from trying to figure out where they are.
So they start like smelling the like French fries and hamburgers. Good old smells that are comforting.
Now I want some French fries.
I would love some French fries.
Sounds really good right about now.
B, look, I see the Gnome Emporium. We should go towards it. I think nothing bad will befall us.
Nothing bad will happen to us at this fancy sculptural garden place.
No, it's not fancy. Remember, it's like this rundown dump in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's fancy in the mind's eye of Auntie M.
They describe this place like they follow the smell. They use their nose smell. Go to like this pretty much like a rundown gas station. And it's like this old like stretch of road because they literally have like a movie poster of a movie from the 1990s. What would you pick from the 90s? What movie would be on this poster?
Oh God, what movie came out in the 90s? Titanic? Probably Titanic.
For me, I thought it was gonna be older. Like it's gonna be like True Lies, or it's gonna be The Phantom Menace.
What an embarrassing poster to still have up. Wait, did that come out in the 90s?
Yeah, 1999.
Oh, I thought it was 2000 for some reason.
No. Well, everyone thinks it is. It was like the cusp of...
It reined in the new millennium with style.
It's just a dump, this place, except it's got some really, like, quaint little statues in the front.
Incredibly oddly detailed statues. Some of which look vaguely familiar to our pal Grover.
One of them looks like Uncle Ferdinand. So can we make the case that this also looks like John Cena?
Was our headcanon that Grover was John Cena?
No, the Bullman was John Cena, but John Cena also narrated, he was also the voice of Ferdinand in the movie Ferdinand.
Oh my God. It's all coming together. That's such a strange choice.
It's comedy gold here, so...
So yeah, they go into this weird... I don't know what word to call this place.
I would call it an emporium.
I guess emporium is the word. Emporium sounds almost too generous, though, for what they actually encounter.
A curio shop.
Yeah, that's kind of what the deal is.
Or like a tchotchke shop.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of weird stuff. And they encounter the most suspicious-looking stranger who offers them food. She wore a long black gown that covered everything but her hands, and her head was completely veiled. Her eyes glinted behind a curtain of black gauze, but that was about all I could make out. Yeah, normal human person. Like, what?
My first reaction to Meg meeting Auntie M was like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, also I found her name strange. Like, obviously her name becomes important later, but it's like, the first thing I would be like, oh wow, Auntie M, like from The Wizard of Oz?
They're only missing the straw man.
That's true. They're already, like, going on, like, a little bit of a, like, whimsical quest in a similar way. It's not quite as cute, I guess.
I think it would have been more on the nose if they were literally in Kansas and they stumbled across this town.
You're right. That would have been a little bit more on the nose.
But I think it's, like, Auntie M kind of, like a motherly type of person that, like, serves cookies all day.
Yeah, no, I could picture this person. The Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz is not a nice lady. She's kind of mean. She's kind of, like... crotchety and yells a lot. Like, I don't really see the appeal of wanting to go back to her. Like, of all the reasons to go back home, Dorothy, Auntie M is not one of them.
I mean, also the Great Depression's going on, so I mean...
Yeah, and the Dust Bowl. It's a dark time.
Live in the city that's literally made out of gold and emeralds, or go back to the Dust Bowl.
Speaking of John Waters, have you heard his bit about The Wizard of Oz? And he's just like,
Yeah.
Do you know what the lesson of that movie is? Keep traveling. Just never stop. You gotta go back to your sad, gray home in Kansas. I feel like that's somewhat the lesson in this book as well. It's like, just get out of your crappy apartment with your smelly stepdad and go on an adventure where you can...
And never look back.
Yeah.
It's almost like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna eat the candy house.
Yeah, they're kind of lured in by the smell. Honestly, if someone offered me french fries, I would ignore a lot of red flags.
Well, especially, like, think of it this way. They've been nearly blown up today and cut to ribbons, and they're a little hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, to have, like, a weird, like, vaguely, like, menacing person that's like, oh, I can make you french fries, milkshakes, and hamburgers. Would you like some? And, like, oh, we don't have money yet. Don't worry, it's free. It's like, Free, you say? Because they lie, because when they get there, he's like, oh yeah, we ran away from the circus.
Yeah, we're orphans. I mean, they're not orphans.
They're not orphans, but they're not also being chased by a terrible count.
They're not exclusively orphans. I wouldn't... Like, for instance, the Baudelaires, their identity is very much orphans. I think that Percy might say demigod before orphan, just because that's kind of like the main driving factor of his personal journey.
It's just really funny, like, going from... Because there is a carnival-themed series of unfortunate events book. The Carnivorous Carnival. So
I was really reminded of that. It's like, oh, the Baudelaires.
Oh, Auntie, please. I just, like, imagine, like, they're running in New Jersey and they see the Baudelaires, like, running from the village of Foul Devotees and they just pass each other.
The weird thought that the village of Foul Devotees would somehow be near New Jersey, of all places, is very interesting. Just you take a right at Carlo's Bakery, and there it is.
The village of Foul Devotees. Yeah, so they sit down and they start, like, Auntie M starts fixing them up, good old food.
Good old food. I also found this very funny because the story that I told about my friend being on the exploding Greyhound bus, her compensation for that explosion was in fact a voucher for a terrible burger. So it's like really mirroring her experience in a lot of ways.
I'll keep telling you, Sarah was a demigod.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Cause
I like how we've like expanded this joke that somehow it's almost like syncing up the Wizard of Oz and the Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, she would be very, very flattered by that comparison. It would explain a lot of the weird tragedy that has befallen her throughout her life, that maybe she's just being pursued by monsters or something.
That could be it. You should tell her that. She should go to Long Island.
Yeah, Camp Half-Blood isn't too far from here. Luckily, we live vaguely close. I'll put in a call. We did do an interview with them.
Hello. Yes, my friend Sarah may or may not be a demigod. Oh, we only have Nerf swords here.
Can she just, take up an apprenticeship, just, making foam shields or something? Anyway, they make delicious food, which the more we talk about this, the more I really want a burger, and then I'm sad because we don't have any, meat in the house, and so...
I don't know, for me, it's we have, In-N-Out and stuff, so, burgers are really interesting. In California, burgers are a literal culture.
Yeah, that's... I mean, in New York, too. In New York City, at least, burgers are kind of a culture.
So it's I just imagine the most juiciest hamburger that Auntie M's making, even though I'm pretty sure there's trash. But, you just think of the ripe tomatoes, the crisp lettuce.
I'm gonna kill you because I'm so hungry for food right
now. The chopped onions. Oh, man, this sounds so good.
Yeah, we very scarcely have meat in this apartment, and every once in a while, I just get a little sad that I don't have... ground beef or something.
So, Auntie M brings out a big old tray of hamburgers, triple XL French fries. They sit down, they start eating their food, and Grover's kind of creeped out because one of the statues looks so familiar. It's is it Uncle Ferdinand? It almost, I feel like it's a comedy shot. He has a picture of him and holding it up to the statue.
Yeah, he has his cell phone, which I don't know. I guess he would have a flip phone when this.
He has a flip phone of him.
He's looking at his Nokia, wait a second, let me turn on the internet and then get charged $60 for it to just keep loading.
It's almost like a Naked Gun skit. He has all these different pictures of him, and oh, that one's not right.
I imagine he just has a fold out wallet of just a bunch of his family pictures of all of the satyrs just at their family reunion playing tug of war.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly it's like a Naked Gun skit, but the whole all the pictures keep folding onto the floor and keep going. It's it starts getting weirder because automatically Auntie M knows Annabeth's name. And she's oh, I love your gray eyes. They remind me of somebody. And it's I had two sisters that used to work with me.
She's this sounds very familiar. This story is just really ringing a bell.
It's but I can't place my finger on it.
Yeah, word.
And she going I used to be beautiful, but then I got horribly disfigured, and this is why I wear a veil.
Yeah, this sounds very reminiscent of a certain something.
I know what this is. It's the woman in black.
See, I wish I was clever enough to think of another myth that would be very funny to say here, but I don't know enough about myths. Maybe I should go to Camp Half-Blood because I need to learn about mythology.
Other myths, would it be a Greek myth, or would it be just something that would be completely useless?
It's the Jersey Devil. That would actually be a very funny plot twist if it was the Jersey Devil, just or several Jersey devils stacked inside of a veil. Is it like Bigfoot? Like, how does that work? Is there one Jersey devil? Is there like several?
Well, I mean,
Are
it's
they...
theorized there's only one of them, but there's so many multiple sightings, it's possible that there's more. Same as with
Yeah, like
feets.
Bigfoot, yeah. Or like anything else. What's the other one? Loch Ness Monster or...
Well, there's only one Nessie.
That's true. There's only one Nessie, but then there's the...
Yetis.
No, the thing I'm thinking of, it's like the Loch Ness Monster, but it's in like the
Tailepo.
Great Lakes. What's the thing in the Great Lakes again?
I don't know. If you want to hear a really good podcast about listening to what cryptids are, go listen to the Cryptid Keeper podcast.
The Cryptid Keeper,
Yes.
It is very good. It explains a lot of good cryptids. They did an episode on Santa Claus, which I thought was very funny. That was like one of my favorite episodes.
But yeah, so if you want to listen to a really good podcast talking about cryptids, go listen to the Cryptid Keeper podcast. It's a weekly podcast. There's the one plug for this week.
Yeah, the one plug. There's definitely going to be more plugs later.
It's like, it gets like really creepy and eerie, and they're just enjoying the food. And then like Grover just really focused on trying to figure this out.
Yeah, really like stroking his chin about why this Andy M, just the way, it's very mysterious when someone doesn't say what their name is and they instead go by an initial. Yeah, actually the B stands for basilisk. Plot twist.
Wait, you mean Basilisk and Medusa are the same thing, though? Pretty much. You look at someone, they die.
Yeah. Snakes also.
Oh my gosh.
It's just one big, it's like she cut her hair and it grew into a big Medusa snake.
Oh, no, she had like one of those like weird, like the hair just fell out, like when she was showering.
Oh my god, that's like the joke in Monsters, Inc. where she, like, what is her name, Celia, where she's just like, I'm thinking of cutting it, and then Mike Wazowski is just like, no, it looks good, and they like, all like the snakes like breathe a sigh of relief. I love that very much. I love that the name of the sushi place on that is also Harryhausen's, which is a good reference to
Ray Harryhausen?
yeah, well, like Harryhausen, but specifically like he did
Medusa.
yeah, Medusa, so I just thought that was pretty funny. That traumatized me as a kid, by the way.
We'll get to that. So, but it's like they're getting like vaguely weirded out, except they can't put their finger on it until she's like, "Would you guys like to take a photo?" Because we can't get like, for some reason I just can't get the faces right when I do my statues.
I
They
wonder
either come
why
out.
all these statues look exactly just like a person frozen in stone or something, just really fearing for their mortal life. I wonder why.
And it's like huddle up because they have to have like, I just imagine like the old time, like a disposable camera. Annabeth knows exactly what's gonna happen, and she tells them to like, don't look at her, or else. And I like this because it's like described in like trying really hard not to look, because it's like you're told not to look at something, and of course the first thing you want to do is look.
I mean, it's totally like when you're like out at a restaurant and like some person walks in who is insane to some regard, and you have to like very subtly hint to your family that there's a weird person, but that they shouldn't look. Like, don't look now. That phrase is the worst phrase, don't look now, because that immediately makes someone turn around. Or like my mom always would do this thing where she like held up her hand and suddenly would like stick out her pinky and be like, follow my pinky, like as if that's any less weird than staring at someone.
I mean, it's such an interesting thing because she takes off her veil and automatically you just start hearing like hissing and stuff.
It's horrible. I hate Medusa.
Medusa is my favorite mythological creature of all time. So
it really freaks me out. Like, I don't hate it in the sense that I think it's a bad trope. I think it's like very effectively scary, but I feel like I was like traumatized or something about it. Like, okay,
because of Clash of the Titans?
Yes, because of Clash of the Titans.
I actually had to go back and watch that scene. I actually had to go buy a new Blu-ray version of Clash of Titans so I can see it in glorious 2K. It's so effective.
Every interpretation of Medusa just gives me the willies. Like, there's...
Is it because it's like people's fear of snakes, or is it because the concept of...
I think the concept of freezing, really freaked me out as a kid. It's sort of like when you're a kid and you're making faces and your parents tell you that your face is going to freeze like that. It's like that same sort of like visceral body horror where it's like, I don't want to be frozen. It's even like also like the sense of embarrassment. Like, what if I look dumb when I'm frozen? Like, that's even more embarrassing. I don't want to be like, frozen in kryptonite making like a really dumb Han Solo face.
I mean, I think the concept as well is like not looking at somebody, like that power of like, if you do, you will die. I think is also a very scary concept.
Yeah, I feel like I was just really freaked out by that. Also just like the look of the original like Harryhausen like stop motion.
It's so good though. I mean, we can't give like Ray Harryhausen enough credit. That man is a genius, or was a genius.
Like uncanny valley happening with that, and just like the eyes and the weird hair moving. It's horrible.
I think the most important part about this is that this Medusa is a creature that was born out of spite because of the gods. Like, they punished this woman that she was so beautiful, and she said, "Oh, I was actually." I guess in this version, her and Poseidon, are fooling around in Athena's temple, and Athena was the one that cursed her to make her this ugly creature. But then there's like other versions where she was like, "I was more beautiful than Aphrodite herself." It's like it's a product of like being like so stuck up about yourself that inadvertently you create your own monster, that you are Medusa, and you're forced to be ugly. You're
Well, yeah,
forced
it's like the story of Narcissus, right? It's like
yes,
the same
it's exactly
idea,
like the story of Narcissus.
right? Where he's like like longingly staring at himself in a reflection, and then he turns into like a daffodil or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's also it's the theme of like the embodiment of like your inner ugliness as like a physical manifestation. I think the great thing as well as with Medusa is you have these concepts of, again, you have like the two scariest things that people are always afraid of: snakes and being ugly. Those are two like weird fears that people have.
Yeah, that's like pretty much Harrison Ford's entire array of fears. Oh, and also being frozen.
Oh yes, or being crumbled to dust. It's like,
so like I feel like Medusa is the perfect the opposite of Harrison Ford, his perfect foil.
I could just gush about Medusa all day, just because again you have all these great
It sounds
fears.
like you're talking about the actual creature, like you and her are bros or something. It's like, you know what, I went to the Gnome Emporium. Those are some nice quality gnomes.
But I mean, it's like the coolest name ever in the whole world is what her and her sisters are called. They're called the Gorgons. Gorgon is such a great name. It just
It's
rolls
true.
off
It
the
really
tongue.
rolls off the tongue. It does. It's Gorgon.
And it sounds ugly.
It does.
Like, you're just hearing me like gush about how like I could just talk about like there's so many great iterations, but the one thing that's always pissed me off about Medusa has been recently when they've done the remake for Clash of Titans or any version where they have to have like it's live action, is that it's almost like the irony of Medusa is a lot of like actresses that portray Medusa, they have to be like, oh, you have to show my face as being beautiful.
Just because that's what Hollywood is.
That's what Hollywood is.
Yeah.
And it's like the great irony of Medusa is that's not the point of Medusa.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like every character that's designed to be ugly, right? Like,
they're supposed to look beautiful no matter what.
yeah. I mean, I can't even think of a specific example, but like...
I can give plenty examples of like actors... Well, actually actors, not actresses.
Or
Even
like,
though I'm pretty
I think one character, like, what is it? What's that character in Hannibal that was supposed to be like that other serial killer's
Buffalo
sister?
Bill?
No, in Hannibal. Not Silence of the Lambs, like the TV show, but also in the novels.
I don't know.
Margot, I think, was the character, but she's like supposed to be like incredibly overweight. Like that's like her characterization, and then like in the show she looks entirely different, and that's like a very common thing to do. Or the whole point of Medusa is that she's ugly, so to like not follow that is like just very strange.
It's like it's an irony thing because it has to do with people being very vain, like instead of just doing this performance and being this creature.
Typically, like stereotypically gendered female already have like this irony thing going where they're supposed to be beautiful because like that's what their thing is, like whatever, it's like sirens who lure people to their death because yeah, exactly, it's like the same idea where it's like, oh yeah, even monstrous women have to be beautiful in some way, but they use their beauty to murder people.
I mean, isn't that the whole point of like a Black Widow?
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, Medusa's trying to kill Percy. She really just wants to kill Annabeth. Like, she doesn't even care about Percy, really, because, she was sweet on Poseidon. But she's like, oh, Percy, I won't, destroy you. You'll be like the pristine little statue. No, Annabeth will crush in the dust.
Because she has, like, this weird blood feud with her mom or whatever.
Yes, vendetta. And I like, kind of like how Medusa's actually defeated because Annabeth throws Percy, like, one of those weird marble red
garden
balls.
ball things, which is so funny and also very like mid 2000s too. Is like the kind of thing you would get at a garden center. I had this aunt who like had a lot of those around her garden, just like a reflecting ball. I don't even know what they you just put them
Why
on
do
a
you
weird
have
stand.
what are the purpose of them? What is the practical purpose of them besides they look
Decorative?
pretty?
I don't know. They like reflect the foliage around them and they look nice. I mean, there's a lot of things you put in your lawn that look pretty.
You know, I feel like half of the time I feel like the light would go through them and they would burn the house down because of the refraction.
Okay, you're just like absorbed too much in the Lemony Snicket universe to really give the benefit of the doubt of this weird garden ball.
I mean, see, this is why me and Percy, I'd probably be turned to stone because Percy doesn't think of the worst possible things with these balls. Takes it a ball.
Well, what would you be doing? Just doing like prop humor, like Carrot Top? I don't understand. Like,
Oh
what
yeah,
are you
just
doing?
like that's a very smart way of doing it, but I probably would end up looking and turning into stone. I don't know.
Yeah, no, every time I see anybody clever in a story like this, I'm always like, yeah, and this is where I would die. Like, I like to think that I'm not the dumbest person in the world, but, like, given any vague amount of stress, and I forget my own name, I forget how to do basic tasks. Like, if a literal Medusa was chasing me, I would not remember how to do anything.
I think if I remember correctly, in the Percy Jackson movie, it's even stupider what he uses. And this might be a fever dream, but he uses the reflective part of an iPod, like the back part, like when they used to have like the reflective metal casing on the back of an iPod.
I mean, honestly, that's something that would work and probably make sense. It's a little dumb. I don't know if that's a fever dream or not. I can't confirm that yet.
I can't confirm. I just remember someone's gonna be like, "Yes, that's true," but I just remember it's like something really dumb. Though it's like any reflective surface will work, and Percy slices off Medusa's head, and I love like the little bit of I didn't want to look down, but I felt like sticky stuff on my shoes. It's like
Horrible.
you just
Gross.
killed this person. Now you're trying to give like a Woody one-liner.
It's kind of like a weird thing to like murder something and then not be able to look at it because like the head is still dangerous. It's like they have to like hide it. It still continues to be.
But it's like really weird to describe like the snakes are all crying out in pain and Medusa's dead, but not her head.
It's horrible. That's like
And-
totally another aspect of what creeped me out about Medusa when I was a kid is like you could kill Medusa, but still her head like held this like creepy power to like turn you to stone still if you like didn't put it in a special box. Like I don't know. It's a very stressful concept to me.
Well, I mean, in the end, the curse that the gods gave turns out to be a gift. In a really weird, morbid sense of the way, because that's how Perseus defeats the Kraken.
Right, that's like how it's like his secret weapon is this head that turns things to stone. Very creepy.
I think it's really funny that Annabeth literally double bags the head.
I was like, let me just scoop that up and all right, where do I put this head?
I think this is like one of the funnier scenes, and also like one of the times where it's like Percy being the most Percy.
Yeah, this is a very funny moment, honestly. This is I give him major props for what he does with the head, honestly.
So he like goes into the back room and kind of starts finding stuff like, oh, now we know exactly where Hades is. And it is literally in West Hollywood. If I could drive there right now, I could be there in about 30 minutes.
I love that we truly live next to Hades / next to Mount Olympus. Like that's just it's a really nice cosmic element to this podcast. I'm sorry you live so close to Hades.
It's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean I live so close to New Jersey, so I guess it's even. We're really throwing New Jersey under the bus today. I don't actually hate New Jersey.
BB, did you hear that? Do. I think that was New Jersey that we just threw underneath this bus.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I thought for a second that was the beginning of a very angry Bruce Springsteen song or something.
But it's like, so Percy goes in the back and figures out the location. And then he goes into the cash register and steals all their money. Because why not loot this place?
Why not? She's
Why
not
not?
using it. What is she gonna buy? Hair curlers? Snake curlers?
And Percy like grabs like a Hermes like express mail slip. He puts money into it, puts the head. He has to. I like how he's like, I spent time looking for a box big enough to fit a head into.
Which is a very visceral thought. Also, I feel like it's not even that hard to find something that would fit a head-sized thing when she has a bunch of statues that are the full size of people.
Oh yes, and I think my favorite part of it is like he has to like one of the snakes is poking its head out of the bag, so he has to like put it back into the bag.
And let me just squish that down in there and just make it all nice and
Mushy.
consistent. Oh God. I think
He
there was
puts
a
that
dead
head in-
snake in my yard once, and that's enough to give me the heebie-jeebies. I can't even
I love
imagine.
snakes. Snakes are the best.
An alive snake is fine. Just a dead snake, just kind of there, decaying, is not a good thing to find in your yard.
So Percy like jams that head into that box and like puts on the little sticker and he writes, I love it. The gods, Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York, with best wishes, Percy Jackson.
Okay, do you think that, like, the mailman is gonna see this and, like, be super confused? Like, I don't understand. Is there, like, a special mail service? I don't...
Well, no, it's Hermes. Hermes is the mail service.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Okay, never mind. I'm dumb.
So it's just like, to the gods, just imagine like them taking it to them and like he just opens it up and there's just this head.
I love the, like, use of font in this book where they just, like, show the way it's written.
Which I like that. I like that when they do that with kids' books. It makes it so creative.
Yeah. I feel like you see that a lot in kids' books.
So, like, in Matilda, when they show, like, the whole exposition on the chalkboard, like,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that
that's
was
fun.
the illustration and not just them saying it. Mm-hmm. I like that about... that Percy Jackson is totally willing to do crazy stuff like this despite the gods.
Yeah, I mean, like, I strongly relate to that impulse. For sure. To
I
just
do
be like,
too.
haha, gotcha.
Well, I mean,
You
they've tried to
jerks.
kill him so many times, so he's going to send them one of the most dangerous things in the whole world that he defeated like nothing.
I was gonna say he's passive-aggressive. This isn't even passive. He's just, like, straight up being like, you guys are jerks. Here's Medusa's head, you...
With love. And even, like, Annabeth's like, maybe you're taking this a little too far. And he's like, I'm not taking this far enough.
Yeah, no, that's the most I've related to Percy in this book. It's just his impulse to bother people.
Which I like. Okay, that's kind of like the interesting things. Just imagine, like, them all sitting, like, all the gods, the pantheon, just sitting down. Like, sir, we got a package. Ooh, is it from Amazon?
Oh yeah, I think my loot crate came.
And they open it up. This isn't the loot crate. And you just hear Zeus saying, Percy Jackson. Like, with
Do you
his
think
fist
that
out.
Mr. D belongs to Club W?
Maybe not.
Oh right, he's not allowed to have wine.
He's not. No.
That's true.
They probably, like, he tries to, and they keep sending him, like, the Dollar Shave Club.
That's very mean. Or like, I'm trying to think of what else he would need. I don't know, like Blue Apron, kind of get in shape.
Oh, snacks, healthy snacks. Well, none of these are sponsored by. So if Loot Crate, Blue Apron, or like Dollar Shave Club wants to sponsor us, please. Actually, I'd love if is there like a book Loot Crate system? I'd love to be sponsored.
I feel like
by
there
that.
definitely is.
But yeah, no, it's like Percy is sticking it up to the gods, and they send it away, and now they know exactly where they need to go in California.
Good old California.
Yes, and now they go off back into New Jersey, and they have to figure out a way to get to California.
Yeah, they sure do.
What did you think of this chapter?
I really liked it. Like I mentioned before, it's fun. I feel like it's like a nice change of gears, I guess. I really feel like we're getting into like the meat of the story. I find like the sort of blending of Americana and like mythological creatures and lore to be really fun. The way that it's done, like the thought of Medusa like running like emporium,
tchotchke store?
Yeah, filled with statues is very funny to me. I think that that's like a clever idea. I like the way that it's like executed. Yeah, this is kind of just like a little snapshot of a chapter. It mainly takes place just in the emporium and kind of everything with that. But I think it's a fun chapter. I feel like this is kind of what I was like waiting for in some ways, because I've mentioned this like a million times, but like reading this book as slowly as I have been, I really was like looking forward to like feeling like something was happening, and I definitely get that sense now. Like it's less exposition, more like just stuff coming at you.
This is where I love where infotainment's coming into the place, where it's fun because you're learning mythology. Like you learn about Medusa, you learn about her story.
Yeah, I think that was specifically done well here. I feel like every subsequent chapter that we cover on the podcast gradually becomes less like hitting you over the head with explanation and more like just naturally incorporated into the story because it makes sense to explain those things, like, oh, here are all the hints that she's Medusa because of this story, because she relates to Athena in this way. Like, it all like connects back to the characters, and it doesn't feel like awkward or like some, guy in like an PBS show being like, and that's why Medusa did that. Like, it's not like hitting you over the head with that.
So they fit it in like a really real sense of the world. Like it breathes. It makes like a natural thing. All the characters have a history, even though they don't want to have a history. If you really look at this chapter, it's very much modeled after Clash of the Titans, in the sense of like,
yeah, it definitely is.
Percy obviously is modeled after Perseus, and this is how he defeats Medusa, is by using the same type of cunning. Oh, I can use a reflected surface as long as I don't directly look at her. And even then, like, he steals her head.
Yeah, it's like a modern adaptation of that same story.
Yes.
And I do think that it's like, this isn't like his first battle with a monster necessarily, but it's kind of like his first proper, like, encounter outside of Camp Half-Blood, where he's like, he's ready, he's on the quest, he knows what he's doing.
Well, I mean, okay, so there's this thing in horror movies where usually the first kill kind of establishes what the rules are of this world, and this is kind of the same thing here, and how now that they're not in the safe, cushy Camp Half-Blood where they can physically die, this is kind of like, this is the first, how would you set up the first creature they really meet besides Mrs. Dodds that has like a really big impact? Of course, should be something that everyone knows, such as Medusa. Like in some horror movies, I'd give an example of a newer movie, but like an example I would give is like Lights Out. That's a good example of like, right off the bat, they show you what happens when you go in the dark. So it's like, it shows you like the reality of like the consequences, such as
It
this,
like sets up like the status quo or whatever.
which like here it shows off that like the satyrs, like Grover's uncle's dead.
Yeah, pretty creepy.
I mean, I like that about this. It's again, we're getting more into the infotainment and we're learning more about the world, both now and the ancient world.
Yeah, I think there was like a nice balance. I thought this was like a fun, it was a fun setting, I think too. I think I'm very influenced by setting. After being introduced to Camp Half-Blood and like the rules of that, it was nice to like then escape the confines of like this camp that is kind of established as sort of like, I guess, home base where everything is safer, to like this more like Wild West feeling of like, oh, anything can happen. Like the mortal world, there's people looking for Percy because being accused of killing his mom, and then there's people looking for Percy in the magical world because he's Percy and because his like status as a demigod, I guess, and like all this like weird complicated balancing of that. And there's like a nice mix of those two things in
Well,
this.
I mean, there's also like, I think the example, okay, we actually haven't brought up Harry Potter yet, so I'm going to do that today.
We have not brought Harry Potter into the conversation.
I mean, you can look at the flip side in this, and like, there's places where you just fall in love with the environment, such as in Harry Potter. You're meant to fall in love with Hogwarts, so in the 7th book when Harry leaves Hogwarts, you're like, I miss home. Hogwarts will always be my home, even though it's just this weird, vague place you're only there for 7 years.
Which is also very dangerous and kind of
This is
horrible.
also very dangerous, yes. But it's like, that's what the thing, like I said, like this book kind of diverges from Harry Potter after like a couple chapters, and how it's like, you set up...
Yeah, the road trip thing is like very different in a lot of ways, because you're really like, you're going all over the place. You're establishing like a real sense of space. I like that in books or even in movies too, where you feel like they can do something where it's like a setting is very small and specific, like Camp Half-Blood, and then expand it out to like the broader mortal world. Like what does America look like now that we know that demigods are real, now that we know that monsters are real and everything else? Like, how is that world colored by the reality that we now understand? And that's like really cool to see.
Yes, as well as the great thing, again, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like that weird mysticism about America, as you have the world, the great adventure.
Yeah, I mean, I love a good like cross-country kind of story, or like a road trip story.
It's such a weird thing, I think, from people that are in different countries. Like, some people are so close to, like, different countries. We'll give an example of, like, being in France. You can go to, like, Germany or England in, like, no time at all. While in America, it's almost like this mythical thing of going from one side of the nation to the other.
Yeah, because it's so big and different. Like, there's so many, like, micro cultures just within a specific state or a specific place. So it's like, such a unique experience just to travel from one end of the country to the other. It's like 1,000 different types of people that you're going to meet. I remember, like, I had a friend from Texas who visited me, and all of a sudden I was talking about how we were in Connecticut, and she was like, well, we can't be in Connecticut because we were just in New York. And it's like, yeah, we just drove over the border and now we're in Connecticut. And like her idea of like driving to the next state is like so different because Texas is enormous. Like there's so much land in America that you could drive for like 4 hours and still be in Texas. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
that's like the great thing. Again, that's why road trip movies are, I think, some of the best type of movies, because not only are you seeing new environments, and that's why in comedies it work because it's like funny scenarios, but also it's like you have like two like normal people like that are from one culture, and then they're exposed to like weirdness, and it's just like them trying. It's like a situational comedy.
Yeah, it forces you to like travel together, which is a whole specific like brings out the worst and the best in people sometimes.
Which we see in this chapter with Percy and Annabeth.
Yeah, where they start to bicker almost immediately, which is very relatable.
Yes, it's exactly like the same. I'm not saying they're the same characters, but like in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like one of them's like very like he just wants to go home for Thanksgiving, and the other one kind of is just there for the ride.
Right, he doesn't have as much at stake.
Well, not that we know of.
Yeah, well, it's no spoilers for that, I guess, that movie from the early 90s.
No, I'm not spoiling. I refuse to spoil Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Though it's kind of like, thinking of it, and I had the weirdest moment about this book. Again, like I try to compare it to other things. You know what this book kind of reminds me of a lot of?
What?
Book is, it's very like the Goofy movie.
The Goofy movie.
The Goofy movie.
Exactly. If only his dad was as nice as Goofy.
And then afterwards they meet Powerline.
I guess Powerline might be Zeus's kid because of the lightning association.
Great, I'm thinking that whole movie's so good, but we could talk about this for days. And I think it's one of those. This chapter really embodies, I think, the spirit of Percy Jackson to a T, and how it's like whimsical, horrifying, but also informs you of these myths that have existed for so long. But like sometimes you kind of forget like the myth themselves.
Yeah. I really like this chapter. I'm really looking forward to seeing like what happens next, like what other kind of weird misadventures we're going to encounter.
Well, do you want to hear the name for the next chapter be?
Yeah, the name for the next chapter is We Get Advice from a Poodle?
Yeah. I just like how like your voice just like kind of like
poodle? Because I just didn't expect that word to be there.
But that's the great thing about, like, isn't this such a great thing about these chapters? Is like you don't know what could you possibly guess where they're gonna get? Obviously, they're gonna get advice from a poodle, but how?
I hope they meet a dog in this next chapter who is somehow a demigod and like holds a little sword.
I mean, a demidog?
Yeah, Doug Demidog, owner of the Dimsdale Demidog.
Oh no! Oh my god, this episode's deteriorating at a rapid pace.
When was it not deteriorating?
We got some lovely emails. Hey guys! That's how it's spelled, GY, like 6 S's.
Nice.
I go by Danny, Daniel, anything with Dan in it. So I heard like episode number 0 and 1 till now and ... Love you guys! You're so awesome. I love Percy Jackson and read the first one till chapter 9. But I couldn't read any more because, like, I watched the movies 6 times each. I haven't read this email. I haven't vetted it yet. Like, I watch all the movies.
There's one movie, is there not?
There's 2.
Oh, what? There's 2? I didn't even know there was 2.
Didn't even wait to buy the book somewhere and got a PDF and read. With the PDF is kind of choppy. B. Voldemort dies. Thanks for the spoiler. ... I was born in 2001. Watched like 3 Harry Potter movies.
Oh my god, you were born in 2001? Wait,
yeah.
How young is this person?
17.
Oh my god, people who were born in 2001 are 17 now?
Yeah.
I'm a billion years old.
I have a friend who was born in 2000 and he's turning 18 this summer. I love your podcast. Thank you for being awesome and having the best podcast ever. Not bragging. And sorry for writing too much. Sincerely, Daniel Frost, the biggest Halsey fan there is. Thank you, Daniel.
I'm sorry. I'm just having an existential crisis about how old I am.
So we actually got another really cool one from a fan from Sweden.
Wow, all over the place.
Hi, I just wanted to tell you that I love your podcast. I'm from Sweden, and here we have national tests in English and more classes. This podcast was very good at preparing me for listening to English tests, which is tomorrow actually. And I love Percy Jackson, so I'm very happy that I can study English at the same time as I'm listening to something I like. So thank you. Thank you so much. That means the world to us that you helped learn English
It's
this
so
way.
funny that we would be helpful at all. I don't know. Like I think that's like a very sweet message, but it's just very funny to me that this would in any way be educational.
This is educational. I mean, you're talking to a person that like has a hard time talking, so it's really interesting that you're learning English from me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like I guess I studied English in school.
I mean, it's such a great thing, like how much this like the community has come together with us, and like you'd be amazed at how many people we've touched.
Yeah, a lot of really nice people have welcomed me into the Percy Jackson fandom, which is not something that I really was a part of before.
So thanks again, Esther. I want to try to pronounce your last name, and if I get it wrong, it's okay. You can hold me accountable for this. So it's Esther Ulfsson.
It's definitely not that. At least we could rule that one out.
Olofsson. Ulfsson. Yeah.
Ulfsson?
Ulfsson. So we got another one. Hi, I'm Delilah, and this podcast has just been so awesome. These books have meant so much to me, and I have ADHD, so I can relate to this. And just wondering if you will do all the books. They just need something other than the musical play to represent them and make sense to this fandom. Yes, I think we've talked about this before. We're going to keep doing these books until one of us goes to Valhalla.
Yeah, basically. This is my lot in life. Is to podcast about Percy Jackson until I die. Which is a strange lot to have, considering my stake in the story consists of 11 chapters reading it for this podcast. So, it's kind of interesting, but I don't know.
No,
I feel
so
like
far
at the end of this, I'll probably be a fan. I mean, I don't know if I could call myself a fan now, just because it's kind of weird to call yourself a fan of something when you haven't finished the first book. But
You've only read like 11 chapters.
Yeah, it feels very weird. We've been doing this for a couple months now, and I know that I could read ahead, but then it's like a whole thing. Then I would like not remember it as cleanly as like what happens in each discrete chapter, and I feel like I have more to say if I do it chapter by chapter. But it just makes me like this weird like fake fan where I'm like, wow, Percy Jackson, yes, I am the authority on the Percy Jackson.
Yeah, neither of us are an authority here. We're just really passionate fans about. Well,
I'm a
really
passionate fan of children's literature, I guess, so that's kind of why I'm here. So,
but we're very passionate about children's literature, which kind of brings us into our great next segue. As you guys are listening to this, we're actually going to be having our new Patreon's going to be up. So about this episode's out, we're going to be reviewing Matilda.
The book, not the movie, though they're pretty similar. Except for a few key things.
But they're very, like, minute.
Yeah. Like, I think the main difference is that the movie takes place in America, it seems.
Trenchbull is still English.
Yeah, because evil people are always English. They remain British.
So we're actually going to be launching a Patreon. Most people do Patreons, but the reason why we're doing this is, just if we're trying to get like a very small goal of just making sure that, we can keep the lights on. Our goal really is just $20. Anything else would be amazing. We can use it to get more Percy Jackson books, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, just to cover the base expenses of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much all we want for this, and it helps.
Yeah, we do this for free because it's fun and we like to do it, and it's like a hobby. Obviously, I mean, we have our own other shows as well that are. I mean, it's not about becoming rich. Definitely not.
No, but it's fun to have this, and this is a way that we can give back bonus content in unique ways that it's optional, which is the great thing about this.
Yeah,
totally
and I
optional.
think recording the bonus content is going to be really fun for us because I think we touch on a lot of different children's literature things that we can't exactly expound upon too much in the main show.
But this is a way that we can kind of like focus it on certain books that we both love that maybe the other person hasn't read before, hasn't thought about it in this way.
And of course, we started with Matilda because Roald Dahl took over my brain for a year. Yeah, the Roald Dahl thing, it kind of drove me a little nutso-butso my senior year of college. But at the very least, I can reap the benefits of knowing too much about that man.
Yep, so we're going to be having very small rewards. So, like, for $1, we'll give you, a shout-out, and you actually get access to all this stuff. And we're going to most likely put it on the regular feed, but at a later time. For $2, if you want to ask us any question, we'll record like a 15 to 20 minute conversation with you guys about anything you want us to know about. If you want us to ask about the weather, we'll totally do that. Or if there's any specific topics.
I don't know how long that would be, but...
Well, it would be about 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, I just don't know how much we would talk about the weather, but you know what I mean.
So for $3, you'll actually be able to pick the book that we talk about in our bonus episodes. We're going to try to primarily focus on children's literature, but if there's like an exception of a book that we both totally agree with, we'll totally do it. As well as, just give us multiple options, and we can see what we can do.
Watch a movie or something. I know that we just talked about the Matilda movie and how that's also really good. I don't know if we would do an episode on that just because we already did the book, but, there's definitely a lot of... there's no lack of children's book adaptations made into TV series or movies or miniseries or whatever else. So that's definitely something that we could look into
as well. And then
for
$10... you'll be able to become like a counselor, so we're actually going to send you like an exclusive pin.
Fancy pin. I'll make it myself.
Courtesy of B.
If you follow me on Tumblr, you may have seen some of the pins that I made for Unfortunate Associates. I did like a little giveaway thing. I just made like a few of them, and then whoever like messaged me first, I like gave them away as like a little promo thing. Bear in mind, they're not like professional. They're just like me with some Sharpie and some acrylic paint and a glue gun. But it's,
So yeah, and you also get a chance to be on the show, as well as we'll give you some exclusive bonus content that would only specifically be for camp counselors, such as very, very like sneak peeks at some things that we're going to be doing. And
we'll see. There's so many possibilities.
But yeah, so it's not that much. But so by the time you hear this episode, the first bonus episode, Matilda, will be out. So that's going to be super exciting. Where can they find you, B?
You can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com, and you can find me on Twitter at bkellygorman.
And if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Suda41. That's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that's halfblood_radio. And if you want to email the show and send us reviews, such as what we've gotten today, as well as lovely messages if you want to ask us any specific questions, you can email us at radiocamphhalfblood@gmail.com. I think that's pretty much like a wrap for this episode. I don't know about you, B, but I see this Garden Gnome Emporium, and they're giving free eye exams today.
Yeah, I think you should trust that about as much as you would trust Dr. Georgina Orwell.
I have an appointment with her on May the 1st, so I don't know. Well, I'm Zach.
I'm B.
And keep staying mortal. Bye.
Bye, guys.